What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the One Fourth Careers podcast. I'm Xavier, your host, and I'm here with Jabari. Jabari graduated from Alabama A&M University with a Bachelor of Science in Food Science in 2021. He also earned his Master's of Science in Food Science with a concentration in product development in 2022. Now, Jabari works as a product developer at PepsiCo, a global food and beverage company. Jabari, what's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping by, bro.
What's going on, big dog, man? Appreciate you for having me, man.
Hey, man, I can't call it, man. I appreciate you being here, brother. Excited for this episode because you do some cool shit, I must say. So I'm excited for you to share that with everybody and to hear our convo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cool, brother. So walk me through your background, man. Where did your love, interest, or passion come for food, the industry, everything that you do? So want to hear your journey a little bit.
Yeah, man. So originally I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Growing up in the house, I used to always follow my mom around in the kitchen. So she'd be up there cooking something. I'm just standing over the stove. How you do that? Like, what's that? What you doing? All that. So, over the years, that was kind of like what I did. So my mom kind of let me have a little bit more independence in the kitchen, and that kind of sparked my interest and my passion for food. Off of that, going into college, originally I wanted to be a chef, and I ended up applying to and getting accepted in Johnson and Wales campus in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I wanted to get my degree in culinary arts and food service entrepreneurship, which would allow me to have my own restaurant one day. So, I'm thinking I'm gonna be big dog, cooking and everything, have my own show, Gordon Ramsay, all that good stuff. So I went there, and unfortunately I was only there for a semester because it was so damn expensive, about 50,000 plus a year. So I definitely could have did better with getting, more scholarship money, but that's neither here nor there. So coming out of that, I had to figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. And my older brother, I have two brothers, a younger and a older brother, Kadeem, who went to Alabama A&M. He majored in food science, and he, came to me and we had a conversation, and he introduced the subject to me. And I thought it was pretty interesting because, he was talking about things that I never really considered outside of just food in the kitchen, but everything that happens outside of that. So that's how I was introduced to food science itself. So applied, got accepted to Alabama A&M University, our alma mater, go Bulldogs.
Yes, sir.
And I spent 4 years there, studying food science, and I got my bachelor's, like you said, in 2021. And I did not want to take a gap year. So I jumped straight back in a month later and started my master's program and finished that in about a year and a half with a concentration in product development. So over that time, I had a couple of internships, which kind of introduced me to the industry. But that's really how I found out about food science, and why I'm still interested in it today.
Man, I love that story of resilience and discovery, and sometimes just not even orchestrating like our steps. Sometimes you got people who come in and they help
Yeah,
you to that next point,
I'm
dog.
telling you, yeah, I was at a little low point because when I came out of culinary school, that was my dream, that I
Yeah.
wanted to be a chef. So I remember telling my dad, and I was crying. I said, man, I'm gonna be another statistic, like another dropout, whatever. That's how I was thinking about it to myself. But,
Yeah.
really, hearing my brother talk about, his success and what he was learning in, food science, it kind of like piqued my interest again and
Mhm.
passion for food again. So I'm glad I chose that path, and, it worked
Yeah.
out.
I love it, man. So I'm curious, you're a product developer at PepsiCo. What is that like? What does that mean? What do you do?
Yeah. So as a product developer, there are several things that you have to take into account. So shameless plug here. I know you may have seen some ads out there about a new Doritos flavor, Baja Fiery Mango. It
Delicious.
has a shark on it. Thank you. It's kind of more of a spicy, habanero, mango habanero type of flavor. But outside of just creating new flavors, there are several things that you have to take into account when you're developing a new product. So the general process that we follow is a little different than what I thought it was going into it. So We start with a concept, an idea, and that is, that comes from consumers, people like me and you, people out in the grocery store looking at things they want to buy, different trends in the market, what's popular, what's, spicy foods that are from foreign countries, different cultures, different styles of food being made. So all of those things are taken into account, and we come up with, a product concept. This is what we want to push out to consumers. So the marketing department, comes up with that concept, and us as product developers in R&D, we get that concept from marketing. So that concept includes all the guardrails. So guardrails could be anything from how much sodium needs to be in there, a brand guardrail. So we all know that Doritos, are specialized in bold flavors, new flavors, things that are, exciting, the hard crunch, flaming hot, and all those different things. So all of those different, attributes of what the concept is are given to us as product developers. And instead of what you may think of us in the lab, mixing up different seasonings and tasting them, with a beaker and all these different things, instead of us doing that, what we have are vendors, and those different vendors are companies like McCormick. So if you're familiar with the McCormick seasonings with the red cap in the store, that's one of our main vendors. We also have IFF, Land O'Lakes, the butter company, and a couple of other ones. But those vendors are actually the seasoning flavor houses. So they are the ones that are actually specifically, literally developing the seasonings, mixing them on the counter. They come up with the formula of the seasoning. But my job as a product developer on the seasoning team is to provide that concept to our vendors, make sure they understand the guardrails. And when they send us samples, and this happens over a 12-month period of development. So we go from ideation to development, marketing, R&D. Through that 12 weeks, we have several rounds of sample tasting. So we have a concept that we know that we're trying to meet. Marketing has told that to us. We've communicated as best we can to our vendors. And over 12 months, they send us several rounds of samples, and we taste, the concept said it needed to be, a little spicier, so let's up the heat. We see there's a little imbalance of flavor from the juiciness of the mango flavor we want and the spiciness. So could you drop down the juiciness and increase the heat? Top notes, middle notes, things that keep everything balanced. A lot of things, a lot of seasonings that you may try have dairy in them, and you would never know, but the dairy and the fat and the creaminess of that flavor profile help to balance things together. So those are all types of things that we have to take into account on the seasoning team. So after that 12 months, we have what is called product lock. And that is us locking the formula of the seasoning. So boom, that's what we're going to put out to market, into the market. So our marketing team, our brand owners, everybody comes together, tastes, we align on one specific formula, and we move forward. Now we have to commercialize. So commercialize is a bunch of paperwork mumbo jumbo about, specifications, and we may have to run a trial or things like that in the plant just to make sure the seasoning itself runs well. But after all of that, we reach a launch date. It goes out into the market. Then we get feedback in terms of sales, consumer insights. Some people you may not, expect, but usually older people. But the little number on the back of your chip bags, have been there for your complaints or compliments or anything that you may want to share with the team in terms of improvements or changes you want to hear or see. And, we listen to those things, actually. So if you do want to call that number, know that we are taking your voice into account, because at the end of the day, we want to be consumer centric, and the consumers are, what make the company run. So that's a little bit of an insight into what I do as a product developer.
Yeah, it's time to end the pod, bro, because that was a lot of goodness, a lot of mind being blown, a lot of sales pitching. I'm about to come work at PepsiCo. I want to be a food scientist, but it sounds too complicated. Don't think I could do it.
Hey, man.
A lot of good stuff, bro.
Definitely.
Okay, so you do all of this. You do these really cool things that I feel are cool. And I love the mango. I forgot what it's called, mango habanero, whatever it is.
Yeah, Baja Fiery Mango.
Yeah. I like it. Somebody told me they didn't like it, but I'm like, well, shit, I do.
Then they weren't the target. If they didn't like it, they weren't the target demographic, and that's okay.
So, facts. So, how do you get in a role that you're in? How do you become a product developer at PepsiCo?
Right. So, going back to what I said about me being in doing some internships while I was at Alabama A&M. Just for those who may not know, when you have an internship, it's basically a summer, usually a summer long, maybe about 3 months long interview. And it's not just an interview of the company interviewing you, you're also interviewing that company. Not only are they looking at you to see if you're a fit for the job, you also need to understand whether or not that company and that role specifically is a fit for you. So the first two internships that I had were both in quality. So I was working in the plants. The first one was with the USDA, where I actually was not in a plant, but I was doing more so paperwork. I wasn't really in a lab. It wasn't really science, forward. It was a lot of paperwork and looking at, documents and things like that in the office. So that wasn't really appealing to me, even though it was a great experience. The second internship that I had was with Land O'Lakes, so that butter company I was talking about, which they actually supply our Cheetos mellow cheddar seasoning for regular crunchy Doritos. So Land O'Lakes, the butter company, is responsible for the Cheetos flavor. But in that internship, I did quality in the plant. So I didn't really like that too much. I didn't like, walking around the plant. I didn't ultimately want to be a plant manager, which is what that internship track would have put me on. So that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So my third and final internship I got was during my master's program at A&M, and it was with PepsiCo. And finally, after applying to several different opportunities for an R&D internship, since I knew I didn't like quality, PepsiCo was the company that gave me a chance. So during my master's, in the last year of my master's, I spent the summer at PepsiCo, and specifically my project for the summer. I don't know if you all are familiar with Pearl Milling Company syrup or Aunt Jemima. We all know that syrup. So if I could put you in the mind space of breakfast time, say you're the type of person that likes Nutella. You like to spread things onto your pancakes or whatever like that. There we go. I thought so. So imagine that you have a syrup that basically functions as a spread, like peanut butter or Nutella or what have you. But how is that possible? So you have to make sure that it's spreadable. So that means you either incorporated fat or air into it for it to be light enough for it to spread smoothly, but also have the consistency of something that is spreadable. But, if you just pour syrup on something, it's going to spill all over the place. So my role for the summer at PepsiCo was to basically explore the space where we have on one end of the spectrum something very flowable, like just water or syrup, without any fat or air. And then the other side of the spectrum where you've completely, saturated that syrup with fat and air, and you've tried to aerate it, and you've added different types of fat into it to make sure it's thick enough for it to hold its shape, but also has the properties of a fat to melt and spread when it's heated up. So my job was to understand what is possible or feasible from a process standpoint in terms of the amount of fat or air that we can reasonably incorporate into this syrup to create a functional product. Now, the product did not launch. The project was not greenlit, and after I finished my internship, I haven't heard anything about it again. But that's a part of what it means to be a scientist. Sometimes it is just as beneficial, if not more, to understand what isn't possible so that you're not wasting time and resources going down the path which somebody has already proven isn't going to work. So that was more so, what my project was for the summer. So with that work and my final presentation, I was offered the job. And the only thing I had to do was to finish my master's program, which I did in that fall. And I started work the following February.
Man, lucky PepsiCo, man. They had a great find, very passionate, driven individual. So really appreciate you kind of sharing that path of how you entered into that role. Really fun and impressive things that I feel will enlighten a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you now tell me a little bit about skills and certifications? What are some skills, certifications that would really set someone up for success in a role like you?
Right. So, I just went into, all the different things that you kind of have to be responsible for as a product developer, the whole development process. So, essentially, the team that I'm on, which is the flavors and seasonings team for PepsiCo Frito-Lay North America, The team that I sit on is directly responsible for most, if not all, of our North America portfolio in terms of snack food. So every, Lay or Dorito, Tostito that you see on the shelf comes out of our team. So obviously, there are several new products that come out every year. There are some products that we have to touch or renovate. So right now, in our team, there's this company-wide initiative called PEP Positive, PEP, PepsiCo Pep Positive, where we are basically trying to renovate our entire portfolio to meet certain FDA guidelines. So obviously, when you're looking at how many products we have on the market, that is a lot. To say the least. So me specifically, in terms of skills that you need to, really understand what is required as a product developer, you have to be good at organization. You have to be able to pivot at a moment's notice because the company is so dynamic and so fast paced. You have to understand that having relationships with your cross-functional partners, whether it's people in regulatory or people in supply chain or people in marketing, those are people that you interact with on a daily basis. So obviously your ability to maintain and cultivate, beneficial professional relationships with these people is going to benefit you in the future when you need to ask that person to complete a task for you, or you need to, meet with them to align on a specific, issue that may have arose within one of your projects. So definitely having those soft skills to be able to communicate well with people is important, but also just being open to change in general, because one thing that you might think one thing that you may think works for you today may not work for you tomorrow because there's a completely new scenario that you haven't encountered yet. So basically, I've only been at the company for about a year and a half now, and there are several things that I still don't understand. But over this year and a half amount of time, I've definitely strengthened my soft skills with, having building relationships with people. I've definitely had to have a very sharp learning curve about organization because I feel like I've been able to skate by for a while with not being the most organized person, but keeping things in your head and not on a piece of paper or a calendar or a notebook is definitely not the best practice. So that's something that I've learned recently. But more than anything, man, it really takes an individual who is open-minded and ready at a moment's notice to take action, because in our company it's all about faster, better, and stronger, and faster is first for a reason. So
Yeah. No, that's dope. That's really cool to hear. Programs, associations, organizations, if people want to get into the space, break into the food science space, the industry, are there any clubs or organizations that you would recommend, maybe just through personal experience or things you learned about after?
yeah. So for anybody who's watching this who may be at Alabama A&M and you're in the food science field, definitely within that department, the food science department, joining the food science club will be extremely beneficial, because that leads to opportunities within a bigger or more global organization, which is IFT, which is the Institute for Food Technologists. And that particular organization is one where I have had the opportunity to go to different conventions and participate in different product development competitions, where I've been able to apply the skills that I learned in my classroom to the lab and actually apply it to creating a brand new product. Participating in STEM Day. So I'm not sure what other universities do that, but at Alabama A&M, we have STEM Day where you can present research that you may have been working on. But definitely, I would say IFT, if you're thinking about, maximizing the opportunities that you may be able to capture in the food science industry or just food industry in general. That will be the organization to go to expand your network and gain some of those soft skills that I was speaking on earlier.
Yeah, I love that. Now, if you could go back and give yourself advice in undergrad, if you were preparing to be in this role that you're in now, what would that advice look like?
So knowing what I know now, I definitely didn't understand the sheer scope of the information that I would need to understand and also be able to communicate
Mhm.
to different people. I'm thinking that I'm just going to be in there, you know, mixing up things in a beaker, and like I said earlier, like mixing seasonings and things like that. But it's a lot more than that, and I feel like a lot of those soft skills I spoke about before with organization and time management, prioritizing different tasks, because the work never stops. You never stop getting emails, so you have to understand what is my priority right now and what can wait and what can go on the back burner. So I definitely will go and tell myself like, hey, you really need to, work on your organizational skills, but also understand that what you know now is not nearly what you're going to be required to know to be a successful professional in the food science industry. And, hopefully I'll, make better decisions with that information.
Yeah, I love that. Very transparent. And I think something I can relate to and a lot of people can relate to, especially being young professionals kind of new out of undergrad. Um, we've already established kind of how cool some of the things you do, the scope of a lot of what you do. Do you have to be a food scientist like when you graduate school to get into the space? Have you seen diverse backgrounds be represented in some of the roles that you see?
Definitely. I'll say that food science is one of the most diverse, fields that you can be in terms of the sheer number of different disciplines that operate within the industry. So whether you're an engineer, you're a chemist, you're a biologist, you're a nutritionist, you can be environmental sciences, you can be a culinary arts major, you can be somebody who is interested in just data in general and numbers. You can come from a finance, background. Obviously, as a business, numbers and money are important. So that's something else that goes into it. But I would say there's really no limit to, the amount of different disciplines that can really be beneficial in food science. I know that without any background at all in food science, you can walk into a sensory panel and provide, very important and beneficial data to a company like PepsiCo to understand what our next products are going to be for the next year. And some people actually get paid to do so.
Mhm.
So there's so much that you can really do, and I can't really narrow it down. But all I would say is don't shy away from reaching out for an opportunity in food science just simply because you feel like your background or discipline may not line up with it. Try it and see, because I'm pretty sure that there'll be something for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Don't close doors on yourself, guys. Like as Jabari said, definitely try. If you have an interest, look into it. You'll be surprised how many industries are like that, where you can come from diverse backgrounds. So never too late to pivot. Always just dream big in general. So that was really good information. And the next topic I want to touch on is what is the career path as a food scientist, as a product developer look like? What are kind of the entry level roles and where could you end up? You touch on an internship where, maybe you would be a plant manager if you had went the quality route, but the route you're currently on, what does that path look like?
Right. So it's interesting because I have some colleagues that I work with at the company that are in different, we all have kind of the same background in terms of food science, but we have different roles and we came in on
Mhm.
different levels. So I would say that your path can be highly dictated by the level of education that you pursue. So me coming in as a master's student, I was able to come directly into this product developer seasoning role because of my expertise in food science, areas and subjects, whether that's talking about food safety, talking about food quality, talking about, proteins and different ways that ingredients interact with each other, fat degradation, things like that on a more scientific, technical level. I've had time to go through those subjects and study those. Whereas somebody who may have just came out with a bachelor's degree, while you may have taken some food science courses or relevant courses, so to speak, you may not have the background or at least the technical knowledge or experience to be able to apply the knowledge necessary to make informed decisions at a very fast pace. So there are some people that may come in as technicians where you may not be working directly as a product developer, but you may work with them in that you can help mix the seasonings or create samples on the bench, understand application, understand how seasoning, may bind to different types of base. So obviously a potato is different than corn. So you can have a Tostito or Dorito, or you can have a Lay or a Ruffle. Those different applications are very, different. You may not know, but my brands on the seasoning team are in nuts and seeds. So Nut Harvest or Spitz, which is the other brand, those bases are sunflower seeds. So, coming in as a technician, you may have to work with that different base, but all of those different skills that you learn coming in on the low end, maybe as a technician or maybe as just, a principal scientist who is shadowing a more experienced scientist, there's still a lot of valuable information to learn. And as you continue to build that bank of knowledge, then you can apply within the company. And this happens all the time within PepsiCo. We hire internally. You can reach out or even reach out to other people within your role or your team or all across the hall and other cross-functional teams about roles that they may have open. And once you gather, the skill set to, be successful in that role by your, standards, then definitely go after it. And that's something that we promote in PepsiCo. Wherever you start, you may not, come in at the top of the food chain with a PhD, but there's still an opportunity for you to get there.
I love that. No, that's so cool to know. Who inspires you? That's something that I'm really interested in knowing. You have a very successful career thus far. You're ascending, you're learning, you're growing, nowhere near perfect, but your drive. Who inspires you to kind of be who you are and navigate life the way that you do?
Yeah. Well, my first, inspiration in terms of, just wanting to be successful in general, I would say it's my older brother, obviously, because, he, encountered different things in life that I could ask him about. And, really seeing him be successful as a food scientist at the same university that I attended and getting a job in the industry, which was a goal of mine, definitely was inspiring. But I kind of want to, go more of an abstract route in terms of an inspiration that I, apply to my life. So if you're familiar with Will Smith, I'm sure a lot of people out there are. My favorite movie of all time is The Pursuit of Happiness. And the reason for that is because the theme that speaks to me the most within that movie is perseverance. And, me talking about my story about how I had to drop out of culinary arts and I had to switch schools. Even before that, I went to 3 different high schools. I've lived in 3 different states, within schools and things like that. So, just understanding that wherever you are, whether it's on the ground level or starting up top, there's always an opportunity for you to be better. And the fact that there are people in positions that you want to see yourself in tells you that it's possible. So in that movie, you see him, Chris Gardner, going up to Wall Street, and he has this little X-ray scanner, and he's walking around and he's seeing all these people, walking around on their phones, and he knows that they're making millions of dollars as stockbrokers and they're driving these fancy cars, and somebody on the outside looking in may just see this man that's in these tattered clothing and walk around with this big clunky device and think that he doesn't belong here. But he believed it in himself, even though other people were telling him that he shouldn't do it or it was impossible or you're crazy. But he never stopped. He was homeless. It didn't stop him. He got kicked out, on the street with his child. That didn't stop him. He got turned away from every doctor's office that, he went in trying to sell this piece of, prehistoric so-called equipment, but it never stopped him. And he eventually got to a point where he was successful. And it wasn't because somebody told him he was going to be, it's because people told him he wasn't. And he didn't let that stop him. So my advice from that piece of inspiration that I use for my life, it would be to never give up, which sounds cliche, but the only time that you truly get a no is if you tell yourself no. And if you never do that, then yes is always a possibility.
Drop the mic. Take off the headset. Got to. So funny enough, I watched Pursuit of Happiness yesterday.
I love that movie, bro.
I'm a new dad, and daughter was born on May 1st. So I've been really into, and I've been seeking, movies that really just highlight that Black father figure. Like, I was raised in a single parent home, same with my wife as well. So like, once I saw, what was the movie that really got me? Right after my daughter was born, I think the first movie that kind of got me hooked on this theme, this topic, is King Richard. Another
Ooh,
Will
I
Smith
just
movie.
watched that again.
Man, and I'm not one of the ones where movies can like bring you to tears, but like that movie got me. It didn't get me, but it almost got me
Yeah,
multiple
a
times.
little thug
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. Just like seeing, a present Black father pouring into, their little girls, especially being a girl dad. Like, obviously Black dads matter, and like, Black fathers are more present than are portrayed a lot of times within our community. So all that to say, it's funny that you mentioned that. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to watch another one. And I was like, I'm watching Pursuit of Happiness tomorrow. So watched that yesterday. It was amazing. It gave me exactly what it needed to give. So really appreciate that advice, man. I think that is, kind of the perfect ending to this episode. It's been an honor. It's been amazing having you on the pod. I appreciate you stopping by, brother. And yeah, man, I can't wait for so many people to kind of see everything you talked about. Can't wait for you to inspire the next wave of food scientists or product developers. And I'm about to go give me a bag of the Baja Blast, Mango Habanero, whatever
Yes,
it is.
sir. Yes, sir. And I actually have another flavor that's out there. It's called Doritos Mystery Flavor. The mystery did get revealed. So the mystery is coconut curry, red coconut curry. So if you can find it on the shelf in Walmart, great. If you can't, they definitely are selling it on the website because it's actually a rare item right now. So try to
Wow.
get your bag.
Hey, crazy. All right, cool, man. Well, we'll definitely chop it up later, brother. I appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate it, man. Take care, bro.
Thank you. Man, what an episode, y'all. I appreciate y'all stopping in. Really fun having my brother in, talking about food science and all those things. Got real technical at times, but I think that it just kind of strikes how interesting that field is. So I hope it was of interest. I hope it inspires some of you, especially towards the ending. I'm talking about kind of that life advice that I think is really important for all of us to keep in mind of being resilient. So appreciate y'all stopping in. As always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so y'all can stay tuned on new videos. Really appreciate y'all. Can't do it without you. And I just leave you with stay happy, stay blessed. Peace.